gave a list of some of the things that the police department did over the weekend to try and deal with this horrible tragedy there in Charlottesville. One of the questions that he was asked by reporters was whether or not he had any regrets, to which he didn't really answer. He just said he truly regrets that day, and he blames this alt-right group for that tragedy that ensued. I've got with me on the phone right now former FBI Assistant Director Ron Hosko. And Ron, do you think that more could have been, should have been done? Did the police do what they needed to do, I mean, in light of what transpired?
You know, Trish, I think we'll need a little bit more time to fully evaluate the police actions. But you know what's true in the military circles is true in law enforcement, that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And here we have the chief describing how they had an agreement with these protest groups on the right, and almost immediately the expected response from the groups broke down with them coming into this park from different directions. And part of the plan has to be you have enough resources to plan for contingencies. You have to expect things are going to break down. Things do not go, they are not linear, they're going to go in different directions. There are crowd dynamics that are important, and there are individual dynamics that are going to change during any event like this. An event where you had combatants coming in for the purpose of combat from both sides. And I'm just not sure right now whether Charlottesville and Virginia State Police, with help from the county and others, had the resources to plan for all those contingencies, practice them, and bring them into effect without people getting hurt.
What could they have done? What should they have done differently?
Well, you know, it all starts with intelligence collection. First, it is estimating how many people, and really having a good understanding of how many people do we expect. Do we have enough police officers here to maintain order and to keep our citizens who are not combatants, who are just observers or happen to be on the streets, do we have enough people to keep them safe first and foremost and keep our city safe? You know, it is really dependent on intelligence collection. It is getting into these groups, into their social circles, and understanding what their intent is, what their force is going to be, what kind of tools they bring. But, you know, I think one of the things that all of law enforcement across the country ought to be looking at today, and legislators, is what do you do when people come armed for combat to these events? That is not lawful protest. Is there legislation that ought to be that ought to be thought about that allows the police to arrest when you come with a helmet, when you come with a stick or a club or chemical spray or other weapons intended for combat? Is that enough to take you off to the side, put you in a detention area, and say you're in timeout for this protest? You're not going to do it in our town. And I think we've seen this happen.
There's a certain intent that's implied, right? If you're coming armed with that kind of weaponry.
That's right.
If you've got a helmet on, it shows you that you're anticipating a conflict.
I may have a racist sign, horrible language scrawled on a piece of cardboard, but you know, the club that I'm holding it up with, or a mace, and you've seen all kinds of folks swinging clubs. You're playing it now, swinging clubs, you know, coming with shields. This is intent for combat. And I think there's an opportunity for legislation. That to me, does not look like the free exercise of our First Amendment rights.
Yeah. And of course, the concern is that there may be more events like this, so we need to be better prepared in these local communities to deal with them. Thank you so much, Ron Hosko, for joining me.